time for the final word in sports all across the state. You're listening to Sports Talk with your hosts, Phil Kornbluth, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. You've been waiting all day, so join the show now by calling 800-956-7266.
My biggest decisions every year is who I offer scholarships to. The roster part of it that's my responsibility. We got to take the right guys, and you got to play with what you got. And we got real good dudes that are young that are trying to figure it out.
It's a difficult team to run your normal offense again because they don't allow you to make as many passes as a lot of the other teams do. So you got to make some adjustments that way. I thought by and large our guys did a lot of great things. In the game, that was one of the games that I mentioned at one time where we got 7 or 8 game goals, but we didn't win the game. And I don't know that I've coached a game where that's happened.
The 2018 football team starts today. It doesn't start in August when we report to camp. It starts right now. And you've got to continue to build that. And we look at it as in phases of the all-season program is phase 1 and spring practice is phase 2. And we'll worry about the rest of them after spring ball. But right now we've got an opportunity to play the game of football, which when you're in the all-season program, you're in shorts. The football's not there. So there's a lot of guys who look real good in shorts running around, and there'll be a bunch tomorrow and Friday. We'll find out on Saturday.
Yeah, I appreciate Muschamp thinking of me there when he was talking about a lot of guys look good running around in shorts. I happen to think that.
Don't think that was
I
who
fall
he was
into that
about.
category.
Oh, boy. Don't think he was talking about you.
Welcome back, Pigskin. Boy, we have missed you over the last, what's this, the end of February, January, most of January. Almost all of February. Football is back in terms of USC and Clemson.
Doesn't feel like it's been gone very long.
No, it hasn't. It does not feel that way. USC and Clemson baseball teams warming up, if you could call that the case, for their showdown this weekend by playing very poorly, and they're getting drubbed by 2 other right now. USC losing to Furman 5-2 in the 7th. Gamecocks have committed 3 errors, 2, 4, and 3 for USC, 5-7-0 for Furman, a 3-run 7th. Just a little while ago by the Paladins, broke a 2-2 tie. Meantime, up at Doug Kingsmore, Clemson jumped out to a 4-0 lead. Looked like it was going to be a walk in the park. Anything but. 8-13-0 for Winthrop. 13 hits for Winthrop. Clemson 4-2-1. They're playing in the bottom of the 6th. But you know, this Clemson team, not that they're going to come back and win this thing, but they tend to rally from these situations and find a way to win. We'll see if they're able to do so today.
Yeah, Clemson, only 2 hits are home runs. A 3-run shot by Chris Williams, and Drew Wharton had a solo shot. Everything else has been kind of snake bit for them. And Winthrop winning by death of 1,000 paper cuts. They're just staying with balls that are in the zone and driving them up the middle and hitting them the other way and basically taking the pitches that they're given.
And, of course, Furman is, in my mind, is really attacking the crowd here in South Carolina, taunting them with the audacity to score runs by advancing people with the bunt in this game.
Yeah, they've been playing the small ball deal, and they have been very successful in doing so. And the result is, and they just came in, and the Gamecock closer was in there, and he's the one that gave up I'm going to get this turned down. There we go. He's the one that gave up the 3 runs in the top of the 7th. So, you know, it's coming off a loss to Charleston Southern where they didn't score but pitched okay on Sunday. Now this, it's got to put the Gamecocks in sort of a sour frame of mind. But you know what? There are still some innings left. Gamecocks have a runner on first, 2 men out in the bottom of the 7th, so let's just wait and see what happens. Today, Will Muschamp met with the media to preview spring. He had a lot of newsy notes to share with us as well. We'll hear from him coming up in a little bit. Brad Brownell talks about Clemson getting ready for Florida State tomorrow night. Little John Coliseum, last home game period for the Tigers. And Kerry Tharp will be here to talk NASCAR as well. Big win for Kevin Harvick in Atlanta on Sunday. Our phone number is 800-956-7266. That's 800-956-7266. Email talkback@sportstalksc.com. On Twitter @SportsTalkSC. As far as things at USC for football, starting tomorrow with the practice, which begins at 9:05 in the morning. Some notes from Will Muschamp that he shared with us today. First of all, Bryson Allen Williams and Jalen Dickerson will be non-contact going into spring and throughout spring as they come back from injuries. Jackson, the defensive back, has a hamstring that's going to limit him. Shi Smith has an ankle. They should both be okay, but they'll be a little bit limited early on. Mon Denson coming back after spring. Out for all of spring will be Jones, Williams, Thompson, Valentine, and Wilder for various injuries.
To clarify on Denson, he'll be back after spring break or within 2 weeks. He'll be back after the spring break portion of that.
All right, thank you. Freeman and Washington are transferring. The running back Freeman and the wide receiver Washington, they have asked to transfer. Now, offensive line, Bailey is moving to guard. They're going to start him out there. Camper will play the right tackle. Hutcherson will be the right guard. Bailey the left guard. Donnell Stanley, who has been given another year of eligibility by the NCAA, so he's classified as a junior. He's going to be the center, and Daly will be the left tackle. That's how they'll start out in the spring. They're moving Young to the defensive line. They don't have enough big guys in the middle of that defensive line, he doesn't think, so they're moving him to the defensive line.
Which is weird because they still have him listed as an offensive line on the spring position chart. So I think they'll still rep him offense some, but they do at least want to see what he looks like on the other side of the ball.
And let's see, Skarnecchia, the number 2 quarterback going in the spring. Urick and Joyner will compete as well. And that's it. All the practices are closed to the public. The media, for some select practices, can watch the very first part of it, stretching and things of that nature. Also, Deebo Samuel's been cleared. He looks good. Stephen Davis Jr. is back on the team as a walk-on after asking Muschamp for another chance to play, listed as a linebacker at 6'3", 215. And Muschamp pointed out they're the only SEC team with a spring game on March 31st, which is good on a couple of fronts. Number one, gives them all the attention that day from a recruiting standpoint. Number two, if they do have an injury in the game or in spring practice, it gives them more time to recover in time for the season if it's that kind of an injury. You got anything else?
The thing that has me a little concerned was when Will Muschamp says that the roster is a little thin. Now, I know that they are going to get some guys in the fall. I know that there are guys who are not necessarily there yet. But the one thing that I think is that I went into the year thinking that South Carolina's depth issues weren't necessarily going to be issues. But it seems to me that at least early on, he's concerned with the depth on the offensive line. He's concerned with the interior depth on the defensive line. I think those were things that we at least all recognized were things that could possibly hamper South Carolina this year. But in my mind, I think he's taking a cautious approach to this spring. And I wonder also, too, just exactly how much we will see on spring day of the guys who are new in the system, guys like the Carry-On Joyner, guys like, J.J. Enagbare, those kind of guys.
Well, I think the concern is this, just in my humble opinion. If they're going with a faster tempo this year offensively, they better have their linemen in shape, because little nicks, ankles, hamstrings, those things happen when you ask linemen to really do things quickly. So this will be an interesting spring from that standpoint to see what kind of shape they're in. And also, after Corn's litany of NCAA rules against South Carolina that he brought out so eloquently about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I am shocked that Donnell Stanley gets a 6 year.
Yeah. Well, he deserved one. I mean, he got hurt on the very first play of his very first game at Vanderbilt. Remember that? Rolled up his ankle. They thought it was ankle. He told us later in the year he had to have surgery for a leg injury. It was more than just an ankle. So he missed the entire season. Then he, of course, started playing the next year. That was his sophomore year. Played last year, which looked like it would be his junior year. And now he gets a year back. So this makes him basically a redshirt junior.
Correct.
Which is good for him and good for the team. It gives him a couple of more years if he so chooses to develop as an offensive lineman, and it gives USC a quality offensive lineman. Plus, they're moving him to center. He is a big, strong guy, so that gives him somebody to really anchor the middle of that offensive line. 800-956-7266. We'll be right back.
The guys are always checking email. Send your comments or questions to talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, more of Sports Talk from Columbia's Main Street.
Well, Clemson trying to scratch its way back into the game with Winthrop down 8-6. 2 men are out. Tigers have a runner on second base. USC had a chance to score against Furman in the 7th, failed to do so, 5-2. By the way, Madison Stokes back in the lineup as a DH today, and he's done his part for the Gamecocks. He's homered. He's had, 2 hits on the day, and obviously they're bringing him back to get things going at the plate. Not sure when he'll be ready to go back and play at shortstop, but 2 for 3 for him, 2 runs scored, 1 RBI, and he's got the home run. 800-956-7266 phone number here on Sports Talk. Couple of other things to pass along to you from the day besides USC's football press conference. We're going to hear from Will Muschamp coming up in just a couple of minutes here on Sports Talk. From the SEC, Texas A&M has moved up its season opening game with Northwestern State. They're going to play on August 30th, a Thursday, on the SEC Network. So I guess that's going to be our first SEC game of the year. They'll kick that off at 7:30.
Before long, they'll be playing it in July.
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
Why not?
Asia Wilson, once again, the SEC Women's Basketball Player of the Year. What's that, 3 times she's won that award?
Mhm.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Unbelievable. Coach of the Year, Vic Schaefer of Mississippi State.
Well deserved.
The Defensive Player of the Year is Asia Wilson, along with a player from Mississippi State. As far as the All-SEC first team by the coaches, of course, Asia Wilson is on that list. Nobody else from USC. On the second team, you have Tysha Harris from USC on that team. All-freshman team, Bianca Jackson of USC on that particular squad. And those selections were made by the coaches. The AP also has Wilson as the Coach of the Year. So obviously they need her healthy. They need her vertigo to go away. And they need her to carry this team if they're going to make a deep run in the NCAA playoffs. You got to figure they'll have home court for the first 2 games. That will be in their favor. But then moving on to the second weekend, things could get a little dicey for them considering the bracket, whatever bracket they happen to fall into.
And they'll probably put him in the bracket with UConn.
Probably.
I didn't know if you wanted more on that.
On
I didn't know if you wanted more on that. That's
on what?
On South Carolina.
What you got?
You paused. You paused. You
No,
don't
no,
usually
no.
pause.
No, I thought you were going to say something. So
No.
I was giving you an opportunity.
I'm interested to see what Mississippi State can do, though, because to go through the season unscathed, and then the team that actually conquered UConn last year, can they go all the way this year? That is going to be fascinating.
Clemson has made it an 8-7 game. What did we say about those guys up there?
Cockroaches.
They just don't take losing for an answer. Now they're now down 8-7. They've got a 3-run inning going. They have the tying run now on first with 2 men out. So they're trying to tie Winthrop here after being down 8-4 after leading 4-0. USC still down 5-2 going to the bottom of the 8th at the USC. Also in basketball, John Rothstein from CBSSports.com reported that USC will be in the field for the Hall of Fame tip-off in 2018, along with Siena, Holy Cross, Stony Brook, Norfolk State, Michigan, Providence, and George Washington in that field.
Up at Mohegan Sun in Connecticut.
You know that place?
I do.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, Coastal Carolina announced its football schedule today, which, of course, will begin September 1 at USC. First home game will be against UAB on September 8th. Then Campbell at home. A couple of road trips to Louisiana and Troy. Louisiana Monroe at home on October 13th. Road trips to UMass and Georgia State. Then a 3-game homestand with Appalachian, Arkansas State, Georgia Southern. Wrap up the regular season at South Alabama on November 24th. All right, 800-956-7266. That puts me in the mood for some football talk with Will Muschamp.
Talked earlier today not only about his team opening spring practice, the quarterback depth they have, and on the status of number 1, Deebo Samuel.
Spring practice starting tomorrow, and we'll go in helmets by NCAA rule. the first two practices Wednesday and Friday, and then starting pads on Saturday. We'll have a pads practice Tuesday and Thursday of next week, and then break for spring break, and then come back and finish it up with obviously the spring game March 31st, which we're looking forward to.
Coach Muschamp, but this time of year, like you said, you mentioned how the team has improved, especially with offseason and conditioning and workouts. Do you feel like this is the most important time of the football year?
Well, it's all important. It comes down to how you do on game day, but certainly when you build the foundation of your team, this is where it starts. And each team is different. I told the team when we had a team meeting in January, the 2018 football team starts today. It doesn't start in August when we report to camp. It starts right now. And you've got to continue to build that. And we look at it as in phases of the all-season program is phase 1 and spring practice is phase 2. And we'll worry about the rest of them after spring ball. But right now we've got an opportunity to play the game of football, which when you're in the all-season program, you're in shorts. The football's not there. So there's a lot of guys who look real good in shorts running around, and there'll be a bunch tomorrow and Friday. We'll find out on Saturday.
Will, how will you split your quarterback reps, and is the number 2 spot, up for grabs? You expect it to be real competitive?
Every position on our team is up for grabs, at the end of the day. And so regardless of what you've accomplished a year before, you got to come out and perform at a high level every day. So that position certainly is Michael Skarnecki was a backup last year, and going into the spring, we'll rep as the backup, and Jay Urich will have plenty of opportunities to carry on Joyner.
Well, a 2-part question on the quarterbacks. One, how much better do you feel about your quarterback depth than you did at this time last year? And then also, would you ideally like to get one of the younger quarterbacks to play some, this year, at least when you're way ahead or something like that, as opposed to last year when Jake was the only QB that attempted a pass?
Well, I think that, again, I feel much better depth just the standpoint of having 4 scholarship players that we feel comfortable with, that we've recruited, we've evaluated, that we feel like can certainly help us win ball games. As far as playing another quarterback and getting ahead in the games, we're getting way ahead of ourselves right now.
Coach, how did you see Debo handle his injuries in this offseason, and what are you looking for from him in the spring here?
Well, I saw him attack the offseason like I felt like he would. The injuries obviously were very frustrating for him, but he's a great young man. He understands the situation. Control the things you can control is what we talk about all the time. I'm extremely proud of how he's approached the all-season program and how he's worked, and we're going to gradually move him through spring as he sees fit. But he's been cleared, and it looks good.
The thing that I don't like about spring that has developed over the course of the last couple of years is coaches kind of reel back the access. It's like we used to be able to go and watch practices and see exactly what's going on and actually, make some conclusions about what to expect in the fall. You and I will be able to basically see until the spring game. We'll get to watch them stretch. Mm-hmm. It'll be basically watching a gym class.
Yep. Coaches have become more and more paranoid, primarily because of social media. People can stand there and, let's face it, they use spring practice a lot of times for installation. It's about teaching and bringing young guys along, but they're installing some things that they want to jump right into in the fall. So you got some guy out there with his camera, filming the whole thing. Where does it go? It goes on Twitter. It goes on Facebook. Next thing you know, your opening opponent's got all your information or some of it. So they're paranoid and they don't want this stuff out.
The point I'm making is we won't know anything more about the 2018 season until they take the field against Coastal Carolina.
Well, sure. I mean, there's going to be a lot of surprises. I think you might say there were surprises today. I mean, there were moves made today that nobody knew about,
right?
And both in terms of position moves and the Stanley thing, and the couple of guys who are transferring. So, they doing the best they can to keep some things in-house when they can.
I suggest that Learfield just rent or buy us one of those condos right at the end of where the practice fields are.
Oh, yeah.
Set up some.
Now you suggest that.
Yeah.
You make that
set
request.
Up some video reconnaissance.
You look at the Gamecock lineup, and having Debo Samuel back, of course, is a huge boost for them, both in terms of the offense and in the return game. He will be heavily used in the kickoff return game. And some of the other players that are back, I mean, South Carolina has got offensive weaponry, and we'll talk more about this. The quarterback development will be crucial. It's time for Bentley to take that big step and go from being a good college quarterback to a great college quarterback if he can. We'll talk about that when we come back. right, well, there is some fight in both the Gamecocks and the Tigers. The Gamecocks, bottom of the eighth, they're back to within 5-4 of Furman. Cortez, who struggled so far this year, batting under 200, just hit a two-run homer. To bring the Gamecocks to within a run, they're still batting with two out, nobody on, bottom of the eighth, a pitching change for Furman. Clemson had a golden opportunity in the bottom of the sixth. They scored 3 against Winthrop to get back to within 8-7. Had the bases loaded, but Cromwell hit a comebacker, and that ended the inning. Tigers down 8-7. They go to the top of the 7th at Doug Kingsmore. 800-956-7266 is the phone number here on Sports Talk. Lines are open if you want to join us. We're talking Gamecock spring football practice as well as Clemson spring football practice. It, too, begins tomorrow. Dabo Sweeney will meet with the media tomorrow afternoon. We'll have that covered for you here on the program. Of course, Clemson basketball tomorrow night plays Florida State. We'll hear from Brad Brownell coming up. But back to the Gamecocks in football and talking about some of the offensive talent that they will have. And, I mean, I'm looking for guys like Keel Pollard to finally – I mean, this guy was if my memory serves me right, I think he was the 5A Offensive Player of the Year in Georgia coming out of high school, yet they've not been able to work him into the offense, tap into his potential. It's time for him to contribute in some form or fashion. I would look for Rikus Davis with his speed to perhaps make a larger contribution in the receiving game. And as far as the running backs go, I mean, I think they're pretty well established there. If you can keep Dowdle and Williams and Turner and even Denson, who showed some good things when he was in there, if you can keep all those guys healthy, you got a very nice trio to run the football with a new offensive coordinator and another new mind behind the offense. And Dan Werner, again, it's got to be a 30-plus points offense this coming year. If they're struggling in the low 20s again, I mean, there's just something in the water over there.
Here's the deal.
Go ahead.
A lot of it is perception. There was so much big perception for the offense
last year.
People didn't see where the defense let the other offense stay on the field too long, and maybe the other offense couldn't get a rhythm. But because of the bend don't break situation, because the defense sort of overachieved, people looked at the defense as doing great things, and it may have hurt the offense. No, but here's the other key.
I don't know about that.
Henson's, well, you got to think. You got to think of weird things. How football is affected by the other side of the ball. Would love to have seen Henson, because of his athletic ability he's shown on the basketball court, to be able to be in the spring to see what he can do at tight end. Or also, I'm not so certain that Ortre Smith is not going to outgrow himself into a tight end as big as he is.
Well, I would hope not. They said Henson's going to come whenever the basketball season ends, which could be any moment now with South Carolina. The thing that I don't like from last year's squad that I hope changes is the utilization of the tight end, because I think that too much of Hayden Hurst last year was basically, he has the potential to be a leading receiver on this team. And I don't think that we really recognized what could happen there. And I'm wondering who emerges as that third down security blanket for Jake Bentley, because you know that they're going to try every once in a while to try and have Deebo Samuel take the top off the defense. And a lot of his health will determine the health of South Carolina's offense, very much so. But the other part of this from South Carolina's perspective is, their execution last year was god-awful, especially in short yardage. You need to be able to prove to me that you can get a yard on 3rd and 1 or 3rd and 2 or 3rd and goal, get the ball in the end zone and not settle for field goals. Too many times they settled for either punting the football, turning it over on downs, or having to settle for a field goal attempt when they could have put the ball in the end zone or gotten first downs to extend drives.
Yeah, you're right on about the play differential, Pro. Opponents last year ran 122 more plays than USC did. Now, some of that is due to the fact that there were some 3-and-outs in there on the offensive side when you're averaging 24 points a game, as they did, and their third down conversion percentage was only 38%. I
want to say they were last or near the bottom of the SEC in that category.
Opponents only 40%, but the defense was good enough. Well, I mean, they did win 9 games last year. Yes. Let's don't act like they were turned out to be a crummy season. By no means was it a crummy season. They won 9 games. They showed a lot of improvement. The defense, by and large, kept them in every game except the Clemson game. I think this team is on the cusp. This program is on the cusp. But the only way they're going to take that next big step is the offense to rise to championship level, and it has not been there in the last and what going on past 3 seasons, and a lot of that will depend this year. I think the offensive line is going to be pretty good.
Ding, ding, ding.
I think the other skill position guys are going to be really good, and I think Jake Bentley has got to just take it to that next level. I'm sure it's there. He's this is a kid that has got, I think, all the tools. Maybe a new voice in his ear with Dan Werner and some new eyes and some new ideas there will help him. But I mean, 62% completion, he needs to get to 68%. 18 touchdowns, he needs to get to 30-plus touchdowns. 12 interceptions, needs to cut those down to about 6. If he can do all that, this offense will take off.
Well, you say that they won 9 games last year. Let's not kid ourselves. That very well could have been 10 or 11 with the 2 games that you look at, Kentucky and Texas A&M. Those were games where they shot themselves in the foot way too much and could have won both of those contests. And then we're talking about a much different season for South Carolina.
Well, the offensive injuries in that Texas A&M game on the offensive line sort of hurt them in that ball game. But here's the key about the short yardage. If you're confident enough, and I think this offensive line athletically will be improved and will get a push, that means on 3rd and 1 in the middle of the field, that means a bomb to Ortre Smith or somebody. Because, look, I'm going to get a first down if we don't get it on this. And it makes you open up to take more chances to do things. And I think, that 3rd and 1, if you're confident you can get 1 yard, you throw a bomb on that play and you're in the middle of the field. You can really do some things if your offensive line is in sync. And I think athletically, this offensive line could be a much better improved offensive line than we saw last year.
And defensively, they'll miss Sky Moore. They'll miss his leadership. They'll miss his talents. But having Bryson Allen Williams back is a bonus for them on defense. I think he will fill the role of leader on the defensive side that Sky Moore had simply because of his experience. He's been a starter basically 3 years, and his work ethic is second to none on that team. So I think that's a positive. I look for T.J. Brunson to have a great year at linebacker because he's a terrific player. Sherrod Green, Eldridge Thompson, one of those two is going to have to emerge probably to be the other linebacker. The secondary, they're going to miss DJ Smith. I thought he was a greatly undervalued safety.
But I
thought he made a lot of big plays and big hits back there, and especially was good coming up on the run, on the RPO, and coming up and reading that play and making a play on the corner. I think they're going to miss him at safety.
But I think Steven Montag can really, if he gets bulked up a little bit more, I think he can be very big for them too. I think Keyshawn Nixon as well. And also, you think about the fact that they're not going to have Jemias Williams in there, so that's obviously a big loss. But that gives
just for the spring.
Just for the spring.
Yeah.
I'm going to say during this portion, though, you get guys like Mukwamu, R.J. Roderick, Taven Jackson when he gets back from his injury. Those guys, we'll get a chance to see them up close and personal for the first time and maybe see, one of the things Will Muschamp said today was the fact that, we don't have a deep enough roster to be concerned about, who's a freshman, who's a sophomore, who's a junior. They want to put the best guys on the field, no matter whether they're a freshman, a junior, a senior, or anything.
In this short period of time, Keyshawn Nixon seems like the defensive back that when that ball's in the air, it's as much mine as it is yours. He seems to attack the ball a lot better than we've seen at corners at South Carolina.
Yeah, he should be a lot better having another spring. He didn't have a spring last year.
Mm-hmm.
Having a spring behind him this year and the experience of last year, that should be a bonus for him. 8-7 Winthrop, 6-4 Furman. Top of the ninth there. Back in a moment.
The guys are always checking email. Send your comments or questions to talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, more of Sports Talk from Columbia's Main Street.
All right, they're going to the bottom of the ninth in Columbia. Furman up 6-4. Last out of the top of the ninth made at home as Furman tried to attack on another insurance run, but the runner was cut down at the plate. And it's 6-4 Furman. They did add a run in the top of the ninth to go up 6-4 over USC as they go to the bottom of the ninth. And up at Clemson, they're in the bottom of the seventh. It's Winthrop clinging to an 8-7 lead on the Tigers. Tigers have the tying run on first base with one man out. 800-956-7266 is our phone number here on Sports Talk. In recruiting, one note to update for you this evening, and that is J.T. eBay, the Rice graduate transfer safety, who will make his official to USC with his parents this weekend, and soon after should be ready to decide where he'll play his final season. He's been to Indiana and Kansas State. Baylor has now entered the picture and could get some consideration as well. He said he might visit there since Baylor is just down the road from Houston, a couple hours, he said, so he could easily go there once he gets back to USC if he chooses to do so. This weekend, though, he just wants to learn more about South Carolina. He wants to see practice, see the players, see how Muschamp and Robinson handle their things on the field. Those are going to be the important things to him. Most important, of course, is the playing opportunity. He wants a place where he can go in, and if he competes and plays well, he'll have a chance to start in his last season. And he said also a chance to win. Coming from Rice football, winning was not part of the vernacular there.
They do not do that there.
Yeah, so he wants to go someplace where he can win as well. The academic thing, of course, he'll check that out too. That will work itself out. He has started 17 games in his career at Rice, so he's got a ton of experience, and he's a guy that if South Carolina can get him, they now have, with the two players leaving, the other two transfers that Muschamp announced, by my count, that puts them at 83 total scholarships.
Does that count Shane Hines?
I'm not counting Shane Hines at this point, because is he coming on Scully or is he coming as a walk-on? Usually you don't give kickers scholarships right off the bat unless they're just super. I'm not sure they're in – well, I don't know what his situation is going to be. I'm not counting him right now. I've got him with 83, which means 2 spots, and they have 2 spots open in the 2018 class still. So eBay could take one of those spots, and Bryce Thompson could take the other if things work out for him academically.
Still a lot of meat left on that Bryce Thompson bone, though.
Yeah, a lot of things still have to happen there, I guess. And I think he is still optimistic and hopeful that things work out so that he can go to USC.
He has to decide that by the 1st, or that can still go into the summer.
Well, I mean, if you're waiting on getting your
academics.
Well, I don't want to. Yeah, I just want to be careful about what I say here. If you're looking at getting your GPA up, let's say, it's going to have to carry on until you're finished with the school year, which would be early June, late May. You get your GPA figured out, and you see how it meets the standards both for the NCAA and the school admission. But in his case, I mean, if you don't sign anything with anybody, but you get qualified, you can just show up in August. Let the staff know you're coming, and boom, you're there. But I'm sure they would like to get him signed and get it locked in so they'll know for sure that he's coming if he gets to the point where he can do that. And that remains to be seen. So there you go with recruiting for now here on Sports Talk. Be sure to check it out regularly on our website, sportstalksc.com, and on Twitter, use the hashtag #STRecruiting. Basketball tonight in the ACC. Of course, last night, Virginia Tech took down Duke. So what does that mean for Clemson? Well, that makes Virginia Tech 10-7 with a tiebreaker over Clemson. Clemson at 10-6, tied with NC State for that 4th spot, that coveted 4th spot, which means if you finish in the top 4, you don't play the first day of the ACC tournament. And you actually don't play the first 2 days. You get the double bye.
And they split this year, did they not? Didn't they?
I think they only played once, didn't they? Clemson and NC State.
They played twice. They played the opening game of the ACC season.
Oh, you're right. Back in December.
Yes.
Yeah. So they split, right? Yes. Clemson won, and Clemson and State won up there. Yeah.
Yes.
So,
so they have. I think the tiebreak for that after head-to-head is overall record, is it not?
No. I think it goes by how you did against the teams
over you,
ranked ahead of you. Yeah, okay. In the league. So, Virginia's got wins over both of them. Clemson beat Duke.
Right.
But
no, they did not. Clemson did not beat Duke.
But NC State did.
NC State did.
Yeah, that's right. Clemson lost to Duke. Yeah. So that would be a tiebreaker there if that's the factor. But then you still have Miami at 9-7. Virginia Tech is now 10-7. Louisville is 9-7. So you could have a bunch of teams all bungled up in that group trying to decide who's going to finish in the top 4. Right now, it looks like Virginia, Duke, and North Carolina are pretty much set. North Carolina still has to play Duke on Saturday, and they're playing Miami tonight at home. So that's going to be a big game for both of those teams, and trying to factor out who's going to be in the top 4 there. As far as the SEC is concerned tonight, you've got Missouri. I'm sorry, you've got Mississippi State at Texas State. No, wait a minute. What's today's date?
Mississippi State.
We got Florida at Alabama. I got to come on down the list here. We got Florida at Alabama, Missouri at Vanderbilt.
Dangerous game.
No Michael Porter.
None for them. He warmed up as he has the last couple of games, but he's in sweats.
Tennessee at Mississippi State. Those first 3 games are 7:00 tips. One's on ESPN, one's on the Deuce, the other's on the SEC Network, and then the last game of the night is Auburn at Arkansas at 9. Tomorrow you've got LSU at USC, and all of a sudden LSU's been thrown into the NCAA bathtub with some questions about recruiting by the new head coach at LSU, Will Wade. Report coming out, I think it was last night. Something came out about the NCAA snooping around there.
Something not necessarily involved with the FBI probe, though, not connected.
No. This is apparently pure recruiting questions. Ole Miss plays at Kentucky tomorrow night, and Texas A&M plays at Georgia. Georgia just lost their top commitment for the class, the point guard, who's supposedly a very good player, decommitting because he's concerned about Mark Fox's future in Athens and whether or not he has a future in Athens.
It is gone final at Founders Park. Furman 6, South Carolina 4. 3rd loss of the season for South Carolina.
The key point tonight in the SEC is the fact that Auburn had a chance to clinch at least a tie on Saturday. They lost. If they lose tonight and Tennessee wins, then mathematically it's a tie for the lead in the SEC regular season title. And Florida and Alabama, just wake me up when each team shows up, because you never know with those two teams. They look like world beaters one night, and then they struggle the next.
Furman, as you mentioned, over South Carolina, 6-4. Mazinski takes the loss for USC. He was the reliever who came in the seventh inning,
which is kind of sad because he looked very, very good to start. He was throwing a lot of gas, and I think that guy's got back to the bullpen type stuff, but still trying to work out the kinks.
Yeah, he's from Hilton Head. I was talking to some people yesterday at Harbour Town who knew him in high school and watched him play in high school, and they raved about him as a player. But he takes the loss today for the Gamecocks. 6-9-0 for Furman. USC 4-6-3. Offensively today for the Gamecocks, Stokes had 2 hits, including a home run and 1 RBI. Tolbert had a base hit. Cortez had a home run, 2 RBIs for him. The Gamecocks have got to get some guys going offensively. Olson's only batting 200. Cortez is only batting 200 now. Now Stokes is batting 529. The freshman Campbell, who they started today at second base, is batting 184. Bright is only batting 206.
3 errors, not exactly going to win you a lot of baseball games, no matter who you're playing. 6 left on base, not exactly a number you like either, South Carolina.
Logan Chapman started. He went 4 innings, 3 strikeouts, 3 hits, 2 earned runs. Majinski, Demurius, and Lomas finished up for the Gamecocks. Of those 6 runs, all 6 were earned runs for Furman. Up at Clemson, it's still 8-7 Winthrop. They go to the top of the 8th inning at Doug Kingsmore. The Eagles trying to pull off the win and hand Clemson its first loss of the season. We'll be back, top of the hour break.